A black washerwoman built a reparations army of 300,000 people. And yet, the federal government destroyed her methodically, completely, utterly. Her name was Callie House. Remember it. Nashville, Tennessee, 1898. A charter was signed that would change everything. Callie House pressed her name into that document with trembling purpose and fierce intention. The National Ex-Slave Mutual Relief, Bounty and Pension Association, that was their weapon. She co-founded it with Reverend Isaiah Dickerson. But she was the heartbeat. Washerwoman, widow, mother of 5 hungry mouths. Laundry steamed in her home day and night. Her fingers pruned from hot water. Her calloused hands would soon write to congressmen demanding reckoning. The argument was clear: formerly enslaved people had labored without a single penny. Their unpaid work had built the nation's wealth, brick by brick, crop by crop. A pension was not charity. It was a debt come due. 300,000 people signed on. They believed her. They trusted her vision. She organized rallies, drafted petitions, traveled speaking fearlessly across the country. House began traveling the Jim Crow South by rail to make that case in person. Across Tennessee, Mississippi, Georgia, and Alabama, she walked into black churches. The pews filled when word spread that she was coming. She spoke like someone who had lived the argument her whole life. Membership in the association cost 10 cents to join and 25 cents per year. That's roughly $3 today, money a washerwoman could actually afford. Within a few years, the membership ledger showed numbers no one had expected. Thousands became tens of thousands. To understand what that number meant, consider this. The entire population of Memphis, Tennessee in 1900 was about 102,000 people. House's organization was 3 times that city, assembled across state lines without a telephone network. She did it with rail tickets, church pulpits, and a dues ledger. The association formally petitioned Congress to pass an ex-slave pension bill, a demand that refused to be ignored. The bill had actually been introduced first by Senator John Henderson of Missouri in 1894. House's organization became its most visible and organized outside pressure. She was not waiting for a savior in Washington. She was building the constituency that would force one. On the road, she was something the federal government had not encountered before. A black woman running a national political organization, funded by black working people, aimed directly at Congress. Here is where it turns. Postal inspectors intercepted her correspondence on a sustained basis. They logged who she wrote to, who wrote back, what funds moved through the mail. This was the same surveillance method the federal government would later use against Marcus Garvey. Same agency, same tactic, different decade. It was not looking for evidence of fraud in the ordinary sense. What they were building, piece by piece, was a case that her organization should not exist. Inspectors had to attend her meetings, copy her letters, track her travel across multiple states. That is not a casual investigation. That is a sustained federal effort against one woman collecting 10-cent dues from washerwomen and field workers. The evidence tells a different story than the one the government told in court. Callie House built an organization that actually worked and terrified those in power. And working organizations in the Jim Crow South, with black leadership and a reparations agenda, attracted attention. In the margins of the surveillance files, historians found something worth noting. The postal inspectors were not only watching her funds, they were watching how fast the membership grew. Growth itself was the evidence they were collecting. Postal Inspector J.W. Jones filed the first formal complaint in 1903. His complaint named the organization as fraudulent. His own records revealed contradictory findings. Members were receiving the mutual aid payments they had been promised. The dues ledger balanced. No member had filed a complaint against Callie House. The fraud claim came from the government, not from the people she served. Inspector Jones attended at least 4 association meetings in Tennessee and Alabama. He sat in the back of those churches with a notebook. The oil lamps threw long shadows across the pews. He wrote down names, amounts, dates. He wrote down how many people clapped when she finished speaking. That detail is in the file. He was counting applause as evidence. Here is what they buried. What they needed us never to know. At the same time Jones was building his case, Congress held $68 million in a federal account. revenue derived from a tax on cotton harvested across the South from 1862 through 1868. Much of that cotton was picked by enslaved and newly freed black hands. The Treasury Department had collected it and never distributed it. 68 million in accumulated wealth, housed federally, extracted through black workers' labor. Callie House's organization knew about that money. Her petitions to Congress named it specifically. She was not asking for charity from a reluctant government. She was demanding restitution of wealth previously seized from her constituency. That reframes everything the prosecution later claimed. Because here is the truth. The government was not protecting the public from fraud. It was guarding $68 million against one woman holding membership records. The government charged her with mail fraud under a federal statute. The specific claim was that she had used the postal system to advance a scheme to defraud. The scheme they named was the pension campaign itself. The government argued that because Congress had not passed the pension bill, collecting dues toward it was fraudulent. Follow that logic carefully. She told members she was lobbying for a pension. For years, she stood before Congress, demanding what was owed. The lobbying had not succeeded. Her fight had ended in silence. The government said that failure, after the fact, made her initial promise a lie. Under that reasoning, every failed political campaign in American history would be fraud. The trial lasted less than a week. The courtroom in Nashville in 1917 was segregated. No black juror sat in the box. A jury of 12 white men judged a black organizer who had mobilized her community toward federal petitions. The verdict was guilty. Callie House was sentenced to 1 year in a federal penitentiary. She was 60 years old. She had spent nearly 2 decades organizing, traveling, writing letters, and collecting dimes. Then in 1917, she entered confinement. No possessions recorded. Her organization collapsed within weeks, not months. It vanished. Without her coordinating the correspondence, the network that had taken 20 years to build came apart in months. The pension campaign ended with her imprisonment, which was its purpose. The weapon they chose wasn't a gun, it was a statute. Every charge, every subpoena, aimed at the organization itself. The cell just held her while they burned everything down. Mississippi Governor James K. Vardaman had written publicly in 1902 that black political organizing was a danger to the social order. He was not alone in that view, among officials who had the power to act on it. The postal inspector's reports moved through a federal system populated by men who agreed. Not because of conspiracy in the dramatic sense, because of consensus in the ordinary, terrible sense. Men who held the same assumptions made the same decisions without needing to coordinate. That is what institutional power looks like from the inside. It does not require a meeting. It requires agreement on what a threat looks like. One black organizer commanding 300,000 reparations advocates was the threat they agreed on. The same federal mail surveillance used against her was later turned on Marcus Garvey. Later, Martin Luther King Jr. faced same agency surveillance across 50 years, targeting identical organizing activities. After her release, Callie House returned to Nashville. She went back to taking in washing. Historians who have studied her case note that she left no memoir, no published account, no public statement about what had been done to her. Whether that silence was chosen or imposed, the effect was the same. The record preserved nothing beyond the conviction. Her hands, which had signed letters to United States senators, went back to other people's laundry. And in that silence, something specific was lost that has never been fully measured. Callie House's organization was not only a lobbying effort, it was a mutual aid network serving elderly, formerly enslaved people directly. When the organization collapsed, those payments stopped. People who had paid dues for years, expecting aid in old age, received nothing. Her movement's collapse was not just one campaign ending. It ended a social safety net built by black working people for black working people, funded by dimes. No federal program replaced it. No congressional bill acknowledged what had been lost. The federal government held $68 million from cotton levies in its vault. Historians studying that account found no record of it ever being formally debated for distribution. The money had been collected. The campaign to reclaim it had been prosecuted into silence, and the account sat where it had always sat. 250,000 citizens mobilized together. 2 decades of organizing effort, $68 million accumulated from black agricultural taxation. All of it, by 1918, functionally gone. The power that silenced her left no speeches, no debates, no recorded votes, just erasure. Postal fraud conviction, 1-year sentence, and silence from a woman resuming domestic life upon return home. After her release in 1921, the petitions continued. The erasure continued too. Federal authorities opened a mail surveillance case against Marcus Garvey. Garvey was building a black economic and political movement with a national membership. The United States Bureau of Investigation assigned agents to attend his meetings and copy his correspondence. Same method, different man. 20 years later, in 1956, the Federal Bureau of Investigation opened a file on Martin Luther King Jr. That file eventually ran to over 17,000 pages. The Bureau tracked his correspondence, his travel, his associations. The same architecture extended 38 years beyond Callie House's conviction. The bill she organized around had been introduced first in 1894. It was reintroduced in multiple sessions over the following decade. Each time, it was referred to committee. Each time, it died there without a recorded hearing, without a named vote against it. There is no debate to quote, no senator on record opposing it, no official moment of rejection. The bill simply never existed in the places where a bill could be measured. In 1989, Representative John Conyers of Michigan introduced a bill to study reparations for slavery. He called it House Resolution 40. Conyers reintroduced that bill in every congressional session for 30 years. It never received a floor vote, referred to committee each time. No recorded hearing, no named opposition. The same mechanism, 95 years after Henderson's first introduction, working the same way. The committee door closes. 95 years of silence finally breaking. In 2023, a formal reparations study commission in San Francisco produced a 500-page report. The city's Board of Supervisors accepted the report and declined to fund its main recommendations. 500 pages. Government acknowledgement, followed by the same quiet door. The petition changed shape. The machinery of silence never stopped, never once. In 2014, a commemorative marker was placed for Callie House in Rutherford County. Its dedication came roughly 1 century after her sentencing. The marker is there now. The organization it marks is not. The cotton tax account was never reopened, despite 2 decades of demands. The dues paid by washerwomen and field workers across 5 states were never refunded. The mutual aid payments that stopped when she went to prison were never resumed by anyone. The bill introduced in 1894 established a pattern every successor attempt followed into silence. What the government took from Callie House was not only her freedom for a year, it was the 20 years of system she had built before that year. And every year that system would have kept running after it. The laundry continued. Her letters to Congress never resumed.